Okay, let's move on to the next question, because I think we're taking ourselves there anyway. Is what are the issues that you're currently experiencing, and what's not working? I mean, one of the issues that we're already talking about now is not everybody has access to a laptop or the internet. That may not change in the first few weeks of next term, so we need to be thinking about what alternatives there are for students there. So that's one issue. What other issues or challenges are you experiencing that we need to, or that this is an opportunity for us to talk through as a group here?
I'll share a couple on behalf of my sister, who's got 2 kids, and she's working full-time at home. Her husband's working full-time at home, and her eldest child is expected to be online doing Zoom lessons as per her timetable during the school week. So she's expected to be on for essentially 6 hours of the day, each day. Her youngest daughter is basically working through a massive wad of worksheets, which she's having to manage that process as well. So I think a couple of the challenges are if schools are trying to replicate the school day for kids at home, that becomes a real challenge for parents who are working at home as well, in terms of 3 people online, 4 people online. You need 4 computers, you need pretty good bandwidth to have video working on multiple computers as well. And then the challenge of when you are sending home resource packs for to try and deal with those equity issues in terms of access to computers and internet. You know, kids who aren't independent learners or who don't favour that worksheet approach. So my sister rang up cursing teachers last week because her youngest daughter, who doesn't read well and doesn't write well, had 36 worksheets to complete in one day, and she spent 6 hours fighting with her. So there's some of the challenges from a parent's point of view in terms of the multiplication effect when you've got several kids in different years that you're having to manage as well.
And I, as a teacher, can attest to that too, because at my school, I'm in a small independent school with lots of challenging students. It's their motivation, it's their willingness to even consider this, because usually we have LSAs, we have youth workers in the classroom too. So the biggest challenge is even to that mindset of this time matters and we can do it. And yeah, the apps, you know, we've got to think out of the square of the worksheet, because I know, you know, even just from that short short week, I haven't got a lot of hand-ins at all, and I know, you know, it's scary. You know, how do I make this less scary for them? So has to be a lot of out-of-the-box thinking now, because yeah, we don't want to just waste this time for the kids.
Yeah,
and it is very hard for parents. Yes,
and parents are feeling very judged. You know, it's like kids worrying about turning in assignments. Parents are worrying about their kids turning in assignments because they've been responsible for the learning associated with it. So it's you know, how can you create activities that are doable at home but are engaging as well, and allow that flexibility for kids to choose, well, what's the best way for me to demonstrate my learning in this space, rather than here's the one way that you can do it, and if you can't manage it that way, well, you know, that's something that you've just got to deal with at home, because there's that detachment from the teacher as well.
There's been a few comments coming through around technology and that self-determination, Janice, you were just talking about then. Some of the issues around technology is time for our teachers to learn the technology that they can be using to share with their students. There's been a comment about not all students are confident or competent to be using Zoom. And then also there was a comment made that parents who are working full time, their kids at home who may or may not have a disability, how do we support them to be motivated to continue to do schoolwork? So I think that sort of it connects all the comments that are being made and what you're saying, Linda, as well as, you know, that it's it's death by worksheets sometimes. And what is it that we can do that will really engage our learners at home? What is it that they need to learn? I can see Melanie's put here that, you know, as a parent, she's developed a reward chart for her sons, allocating things that she knows that they can do and they will do. I had a conversation with Bree Jimenez, who I can see has joined us today last week. And she was talking about, for some of our students, it may be, it's not necessarily a case of always learning something new. It's about providing opportunities for repeated practice. For some of our students with higher needs, maybe this time at home is about giving them an opportunity to really embed that learning. Giving parents some strategies where they can help their kids generalize and apply some of the things they've learnt at school at home. Another thing that that is coming out quite clearly from all of you is giving our families as well as our kids a sense of how much time do you need to spend on this task. We're not trying to replicate a school day. So if we can be very clear around what the learning is, we can give some indication about how much time you could spend on it. That might vary for our students, and then what that could actually look like.
Sarah, I think it's Jenny Brown. I think some of
in the middle.
that some of the schools are also, maybe not for your more senior students, but sending out those the grid type activities that have got all the different learning styles, the different faculties, curriculum areas, and giving a bit of choice around, you know, if you haven't got access to the technology, then you can do it through art or you can do it through. So I think some of schools are developing some of that, particularly some of the primary schools, I think, as well, and that gives parents a bit of a choice and a bit of a breather, like, you go and cook tea or go and weed the veggie garden, or, you know, those kind of things that are actually meeting some of the curriculum stuff and giving parents a bit of a breather as well. So I think that's something that schools can perhaps think about around that sort of development.
Yeah, I think it is really important for us, as you know, I think the amount of work that teachers are putting in as well to create resources at home, you want that energy to be going into something that is going to be used and useful for our students. I think the more we can think about how does this relate to something you're doing at home. So I saw a nice example from Jennifer Cates, who's in British Columbia in Canada, and I'll share these resources afterwards with everybody. But she has been putting up some resources for schools where the learning is articulated as a big idea, a very broad statement that relates to outcomes or achievement standards, a broad, big idea. And then with some examples that relate to what that could look like at home. So one of the science examples was around matter and how matter changes. And she talked about, you know, what in the kitchen do you know goes from a solid to a liquid? What goes from a solid to a liquid back to a solid? So again, if we can think of examples where kids could maybe get up from their desk or the kitchen table and actually be applying that learning with day-to-day examples, may help with engagement. Thank you. Janice has just shared that resource in the chat. Ellie's talking about cross-curriculum units of work. Ellie, do you have experience of how that's actually going in terms of teachers collaborating?
No, I don't, but I have seen of some schools that are doing it. It's not really a space that our school's gone down. I did suggest it, and after calming a few people down about, I know everyone's stressed. I know we don't want to dive into this brand new territory, but perhaps it's something, if this is going to be ongoing, that we can have a look at. Certainly, we've got a small group of staff that we're going to be looking at implementing sort of more of a common outcome group across KLA unit of work in term 2. That's been put on the back burner at the moment, simply so we could try and get ahead of the wave around the teaching and learning. But I know some schools up in the Hunter have dived into that territory, but it's sort of, it hasn't been something new. It's something the school's already been doing that's enabled them to just continue in that space.
Yeah, I know Curry High is one of those schools that's, they've been doing project-based learning across KLAs for a couple of years now, and so it's been a really nice fit. And they're certainly, the feedback from the kids and the teachers is that they were so lucky to be in that space once they ran into this situation, because it was an easy transfer across. We might see if we can pinch some ideas from Curry around some of their themes maybe, and how they're pulling that together through Sarah Taylor. I know she's on the project-based sort of steering group that they've got at the school, so she might be able to share some ideas with us, hopefully. Hit her up as an ex-student, I think. She owes me some favours.
I think one of the, from my personal experience as well with my daughter, one of the things I've found a struggle for her is she's not always clear about what it is she's being asked to do. She has an activity that needs to be completed, and I think, thinking about families who may not be at home or available to support their kids to unpack an activity, work out what they're actually being asked to do, is something for us to really think about. How can we present that to our students? So a student who may struggle with their reading comprehension, or a student who may really struggle to get on with a task by themselves, has a chance of actually completing the learning. Anybody have got experiences like that around the challenges of what the task is actually asking of our kids? Any solutions for that?
All in my short experience of this is, like at first it's like, yes, delivering a task, but then reviewing the task as like the next day, if some students have done it, it really is very tricky. I think perhaps stipulating to people that there's no, sure, things are due, but not having such a deadline on things, because it might take a few goes at someone understanding, what to do, and not to put these deadlines. That's just another stress. It's another barrier to just trying at least. So,
Linda, when I hear you talking to me, I'm thinking there's a, if we really want our students to understand what to do and for them to know if they've got it, this is really an opportunity for us to play around with how do we present very clear, explicit learning intentions and success criteria.
Totally.
But also coming back to that point you made about the language we use, because again, I asked my daughter, do your teachers use learning intentions and success criteria? And she dismisses it. Oh, I just get straight to the task. So I think, there's something for us to think about there, that this is an opportunity for us to make the learning really clear to our kids and to parents. But we also need to teach our families and our kids how to use those purposefully. I just want to sort of pick up on a comment that Jen has made, that she's using a consistent routine with how she's presenting her lessons to her students, so they're starting to get familiar with a pattern, and I could see maybe that's an opportunity for really supporting our kids to you know, unpack a learning intention, even if we don't use the word learning intention? Does that put them off? But, you know, I don't know. It's something for us to think about.